Monteverdi Sahara 1978–80. Peter Monteverdi began his racing career in 1951. However, Her Majesty luck was not favorable to him, and he did not achieve serious success in the field of motorsport. And in 1961, he also had a serious accident, after which he simply lacked health to drive superfast cars and cope with overloads. And then Peter decided to start building no less supercars. His first truly successful creation was the Monteverdi High-Speed 375S, 1967, with an Italian body, a German steering system, an American V8 engine and an automatic transmission. Others followed. Production gradually expanded, allowing the owner of the company to earn good money. Alas, the happiness did not last long. After the first fuel crisis of 1973, sales of insanely fast and equally uneconomical road cars plummeted, and times fell on small manufacturers like Monteverdi. In order to keep the company running, Peter decided to fill the empty market niche of European high-end SUVs, using the same ideas as in sports cars. The American International Scout II and the British Range Rover were supposed to be used as donors of components and assemblies. Initially, Monteverdi wanted to create something like an ultra-expensive version of the Range Rover with an engine of 5, or better 7 liters and with an automatic transmission. It was her absence that he considered the main drawback of the future legend of the British car industry. According to some reports, Monteverdi built a prototype using British and American components and assemblies. According to others, the company managed to assemble a batch of several copies. One way or another, but later on this idea had to be abandoned. Why? History is silent. Either the Range Rover turned out to be too expensive for alteration, or it was simply not possible to agree with the British. As a result, for the future luxury all-terrain vehicle Safari from Range, they bored only the rear door with glass. The second Monteverdi car was built on the basis of Scout units. Initially, he received not only the body of the Italian studio Carrozzeria Fissor, but also a specially designed frame of a complex design. As they rode in the avenues issued for the 1976 Geneva Motor Show, it significantly improved the driving performance of the car. However, at the same time, the cunning frame increased the cost of an already very expensive car, and therefore had to be abandoned. As a result, by the beginning of mass production, the new super SUV Monteverdi Safari was a rather interesting combination of the most unexpected components and assemblies. The body, however, still remained the original, except for the aforementioned tailgate from the Range Rover. The headlights were borrowed from the Fiat 125 TS, the taillights from the Peugeot 504 brake, and the bumper parts from BMW. In addition, the specialists of the Fissor company could provide the Safari with light armor for a very substantial additional fee. Running a little ahead, we note that in 1979, the Italians even built a 4-door version of the car. But, alas, she did not go into the series. Inside, the new Monteverdi Rover sported an original, expensive interior that had little or nothing to do with the Scout II's Spartan furnishings. For example, the dashboard and door cards were upholstered in natural leather, the air conditioner received peculiar round-shaped nozzles instead of rectangular Scout ones. And in the basic configuration, power windows, central locking, cruise control, an electric sunroof and even a refrigerator for drinks were installed. The picture was supplemented by a sports steering wheel from supercars from old stocks and a TV set, a mobile phone, corresponding to the technology level of those years, and a voice recorder, available by special order. The frame and chassis, including continuous axles, ventilated disc front brakes, power steering and suspension, were taken from the Scout unchanged. The all-wheel drive system with plug-in front axles was supplemented with a rear limited slip differential, which received a forced locking. Gearboxes were offered in 2 types, a manual 4-speed, which almost no one ordered, and a 3-speed automatic from Chrysler. Chrysler also supplied 2 V8 engines with a working volume of 5.2 and 7.2 liters, the last one since 1978. The first developed a capacity of 160 liters. Width. At 4,000 revolutions per minute, the second, 305 liters. Width. At 4,800 revolutions per minute. The maximum speed was, respectively, 170 kilometers, h and, according to the advertisements, over 200 kilometers, h. Alas, there is no exact data. Law-abiding and, most importantly, sane Europeans did not dare to accelerate to such an insane speed in a car with a spring-dependent suspension. As for the reckless Arab sheiks, the lion's share of Monteverdi's products went to the Gulf countries. No information about the speed was received from them. However, nothing prevented you from enjoying good, even by today's standards, dynamics. A 5.2-liter engine accelerated an SUV weighing 2 tons from 0 to 100 kilometers, h in 13 seconds. Well, the engine volume 7. In addition to these engines, the Safari was equipped with a Chrysler V8 with a volume of 5.9 liters and a capacity of 180 liters. Width. At 3,000 revolutions per minute. And since 1978, Peter Monteverdi switched to a V8 from International with a displacement of 5.7 liters and a capacity of 165 liters. Width. At 3,600 revolutions per minute. He even tried to experiment with Nissan diesels, which was no coincidence. These were the engines that began to be installed on some international SUVs with the onset of the second fuel crisis of 1979. However, it is known for certain that only one eccentric client expressed the desire to radically save fuel. And this was not surprising, because Monteverdi built equipment for those who did not care at all about fuel consumption, which started from 18 liters per 100 kilometers, or even more so the price tag. After all, Safari was conceived as the Rolls-Royce of SUVs and cost accordingly -50% more expensive than a Range Rover equipped with all possible additional equipment. It is curious that Peter Monteverdi said, they say, he managed to sell 3,000 copies of Safari. Here are just evil tongues hinted that this circulation is advertising, and the declared number should be divided by 3, or even better, by 10. It is not possible to establish a real picture, because very few Monteverdi Safari have survived to this day. This is due to the increased putrefaction of Italian bodies, and not only Fissor, but such giants as Alfa Romeo, Lancia and Fiat. Some historians believe that this outrage was due to the traditional southern sloppiness and, as a result, poor anti-corrosion treatment. Others believe that the reason is low-quality cheap metal that the Italian car industry used in the 1970s. The success of the Safari model pushed Monteverdi to expand its lineup. In 1978 he launched a tuning variant of the International Scout II called Sahara. The American-Swiss SUV received a new front end with double round headlights and new direction indicators, narrow plastic bumpers, a front spoiler, decorative trims on the sides, etc. The interior, after serious revision, was not much inferior to the more expensive Safari. The engine on the Sahara was installed with a volume of 5.7 liters. Vehicle speed reached 170 km/h, and acceleration from 0 to 100 km/h, 12s. Unfortunately, despite all the tricks, Sahara was already too much like the Scout, and therefore wealthy clients did not show much interest in it. Until 1980, only 30 units were sold. Alas, in 1980 International went bankrupt and ceased production of the Scout and other lightweight models suitable for conversion. On old reserves, Monteverdi could only last a year. Next, new business partners were needed to provide cars for deep tuning, and Peter decided to establish cooperation with British Leyland in the person of Land Rover and with the Swiss truck manufacturer Sauer. For British Leyland, Monteverdi developed a 4-door body, the production of which was taken over by the same firm Fissor. The Italians made new doors, side windows and elegant Lancia door handles. At the same time, the interior did not undergo radical alterations, but was only improved and supplemented by an expensive stereo system, a refrigerator between the seats, etc. Several cars received turbocharging, which increased the engine power from 132 horsepower, width, up to 205. In 1980, 167 examples of Range Rover Monteverdi were built. And already in 1981, the British set up the production of their own four-door, which almost did not differ from the creation of Monteverdi. Naturally, the author received a very solid reward for his work. Together with Sauer, Peter Monteverdi planned to establish the production of a family of army and utility civilian SUVs, including those with a wagon layout, with Nissan diesels. Unfortunately, the partner was not chosen well. Sauer was heading towards bankruptcy in the wake of International, and he had no time to develop new cars. Therefore, all that was done was to build 3 prototypes with different bodies. The failures of Monteverdi did not end there. The projects of exclusive versions of Mercedes-Benz and Dodge passenger cars did not go into the series. Finally, in 1984, Monteverdi ceased operations. A museum was organized on the territory of the former factory, and Monteverdi bought many of the exhibits for it personally from his clients.